Welcome to Review Every Ship by CitizenCon 2024. The point is to give an update on every ship since some haven't had a video made about them in years, and others, the information is simply too spread out to be helpful in making decisions. Remember, digital ships aren't imaginary, digital ships are imagine-necessary. A quick shout out to First Ninjas, Survivor the Hero, and Rob. I don't know what I did to deserve a second $100 member on this channel, but again, I am humbled. I appreciate you. Rob, contact me via email and we could talk more about your Takeru membership and your goals. Shout out to Rob for matching Survivor the Hero. He must have been like, challenge accepted. Survivor the Hero, thanks for the inspiration. Also, shout out to my Joni Ninja members, Radium TX, Paylene Tan, the Solid Exodus, my new Joni Ninjas, like I said before, Damon Donaldson, Dark Wolf God, and ETL and Spades. And then my Chunin Ninja members, Raygun 972, Walk on Your Side, Rage 1, Scorpio King 3, Soul Galaxia, Meat Salad, and Praetorian. And of course, all of my other members from every level who are all listed at the end of the video. As always, membership is never required, but always appreciated. You help make this YouTube dream even more possible, so thank all of you. Every month we do a giveaway to give back to this wonderful community. This month's giveaway prize is an RSI Mantis with LTI. That comes with both the M50 and Mantis Skull Crusher skins. To enter the contest, make sure you're subscribed to Billionaire Ninjas, leave a comment on at least one video, and like or dislike a video. Winners have 2 weeks to claim their prize. Members collectively have a 25% chance of winning just for being members. So if you're subscribed, consider hitting that join button, and if you're not subscribed, I appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. For the full giveaway details, make sure you visit our Billionaire Ninjas Discord or our social media at Ninjas Leap. Today we complete our ride through the MISC manufacturer. Well, technically, we still have to do Mirai. And the next ships are the MISC Starfarer series, and it's 2 variants. Well, I guess it's 1 variant. It's the base and then, yeah. Anyway, we have the Starfarer, $300 standalone, 280 war bond, was $175 at concept, cost about $13.2 million in game. The Gemini, 340 standalone, 320 war bond, was $240 at concept, cost about $15 million in game. All of the Starfarer series is time limited for purchase. None of these ships are currently available for rent in game. The Starfarer differs from traditional bulk freighters in one key way. It is a dedicated fuel platform. The Starfarer is designed not only to load, store, and protect fuel stasis units, it is designed to take in spaceborne gases and refine them for use without landing. And while it excels at this, the Starfarer can also be used to ferry traditional bulk cargo pods. The listed cargo capacity is only for the dedicated cargo room and does not account for the extra space available from the bulk cargo pods. The UEE military uses an adapted rough and tumble Gemini variant of the Starfarer for their frontline operations, trading some cargo capacity and maneuverability for reinforced armor, increased shielding, more powerful engines, and stronger manned turrets. The Gemini also includes an optional missile pod, which can be swapped for the fuel intake unit on either Starfarer variant's nose. The listed cargo capacity is only for the dedicated cargo room and does not account for the extra space available from the bulk cargo pods. The MISC Starfarer and Starfarer Gemini.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
All the same, length 102, beam 48.5, height 24.5. They are all size 5 large ships, aka sub-capital ships. For crew, the Starfarer series all have the same minimum crew, which is 1 and maximum crew of 7. The Starfarers all carry 291 SCU each. A quick note, it may not be that when it's all said and done and the game is balanced, that these two still carry the same amount, but for now, I'm reading what the stats are currently. The claim time for the Starfarer is about 18 minutes, expedited is about 6 minutes, and the expedited fee should be about 9,000 credits. The claim time for the Gemini is about 35 minutes, expedited is about 12 minutes, and the expedited fee should be about 16,000 credits. All the Starfarers have the same speed, a top SCM speed of 106 and a max speed of 845. The SCM speed is way below average overall. It's actually the second slowest ship in the entire game and is way below average for its class because it's the slowest in its class. The nav max speed is second worst in the game, and worst for its class, the same way as the SCM speed. For maneuverability, the Starfarer series is way below average overall as of 3.24.1, but as far as the large class of ships, it's actually the best in its class. For hydrogen capacity, all Starfarers are the same. You might think a ship that is dedicated as a fuel hauler would have the highest fuel capacity in the game. You would be wrong, however. However, it is way above average overall and way above average for this class. When it comes to quantum fuel, it's a similar story, for the Starfarers being above average overall and way above average for its class. For quantum stats, all the Starfarer series are interstellar, meaning you can travel anywhere in the system multiple times without refueling and will also have fuel to make it to your next destination in a neighboring star system. This is the higher standard for long distance travel. For weapons, the Starfarer comes stock with 2 size 4 pilot-controlled Rhino repeater turrets and 4 size 3 Panther repeater manned turret guns, and no missiles. For weapons, the Gemini comes stock with 2 size 5 pilot-controlled Galdarine repeater turrets and 4 size 3 Panther repeater manned turret guns. The Gemini also has 9 size 3 arrestor missiles in a single missile launcher. The hull HP for the Starfarer is 75,800, which is way above average overall, but way below average for its size and is literally the worst in its class. The hull HP for the Gemini is 77,359, which is way above average overall, but way below average for its size, and is the second worst in its class. The shields on the Starfarer and the Gemini are both the Stronghold industrial grade C shields, which are bubble type shields. The shield pool is about 300,000 and it regens at about 3,216 HP per second. A quick note is that this includes shield changes from a recent September rebalance, September 24. For ship parts, the Starfarer all have the same size parts. The whole series has 1 large radar, 2 medium computers, 1 large power plant, 2 large coolers, 3 large shield generators, 2 large fuel intakes, 1 large fuel tank, a large quantum drive, a large jump module, and 1 large quantum fuel tank. Some special features and amenities for these ships. First, it has full living arrangements, 7 beds, a kitchen. It's a subcapital ship, so there are plenty of places to store your things like armor and weapons. The cockpit has 5 stations, including a captain's chair. The captain's chair is not there in the captain's room, which is very weird. It's a weird bug, so when I say captain's chair, just know that there's only one in the cockpit. There's not one in the actual captain's room. Very weird. But anyway, I digress. I might add, this ship also has a maze feature where it takes about 2 weeks to get your bearings and understand where everything is. Well, I consider it a feature. Others might consider it a bug. CIG calls it an FPS level for Squadron 42. We'll see what it ends up actually being. The Gemini also comes with better armor. Let's not forget that this is a fuel ship primarily, and both versions come with the fuel scoop, except it's mounted on the Starfarer by default, and the Gemini comes with a missile launcher mounted by default. But the big story here is the amount of fuel this thing carries. It carries so much hydrogen fuel that I was able to refuel my A2 5 times before it was even close to emptying 1 pod. And this thing has 6 total pods. Now, obviously, some of that has to be saved for quantum fuel, but I can imagine having 2 pods of hydrogen, which people don't run out of as much, and 4 pods of quantanium, which will be in high demand. My preferred loadout for the Starfarer is the same pretty much no matter what version you get. Your favorite distortion scatterguns, all industrial grade A parts, with the exception of the quantum drive, where you should get the fastest quantum drive so you can get away quickly, even if range is limited. This thing should not be fighting, even if you have the Gemini. Albeit, if you have the Gemini, I'm okay with a full ballistic loadout instead of distortions, but still, you should probably run. Now it's time to rate these ships. A rating I rate from 1 to 10. My 1 is only by if you have a unique reason that is specific to you or because you like the looks of the ship. My 10 is if you have the money. These ships are almost guaranteed to be useful to you in the game. A 1 doesn't mean the ships are useless or ugly, and a 10 doesn't mean that the ships are perfect. Just remember, these are just our ratings. Please give us yours in the comments down below, and we will take them, draw them on tiny pieces of paper, turn them into tiny paper airplanes, and watch them fly. Or we'll just read them and reply, Never mind. I just like rhyming. It's a thing. Anyway, my rating for this ship is of course going to be handed out based on which variant we are looking at. The Starfarer is a 6. The Gemini is a 7. Let's start with what I like about all these ships. Well, currently, these are the only ships capable of refueling other ships, but also currently, that feature is completely broken in 3.24.1. So, I can't even say currently, but at the same time I have to say currently, because it's still the only flyable ship that is capable of that. That ends up not being much of a problem because the Starfarer is surprisingly a decent multi-role ship with a nice cargo load, a ton of beds, a decent amount of turrets, and decent survivability. I also like how much fuel this thing can carry. It really is the best fuel holding ship in the game. Just having these with you is like having a fuel warehouse where you can stay out a few days without having to come back, unless you have a larger fleet, in which case you'll probably have to come back after one day. What I like about the Starfarer specifically is its price. At $300, this ship is totally worth its starting price, and I'm surprised it's not actually $350. I wouldn't be surprised if the price on this ends up closer to $450 or $500 once this ship gets its inevitable rework, or heaven forbid, Mark II variant. What I like about the Gemini, it has the same thing going for it. That price is pretty much exactly where it should be, except it could be a little bit more expensive. If the base was $350, I could imagine the Gemini being $375 or even $380. But more specifically, it is, by all intents and purposes, a direct upgrade from the Starfarer, improving on it without gathering any flaws along the way. Which brings me to my next point, the issues with all these ships and how I would fix them. The Starfarer is weird in that I don't see why anyone currently would get the base model rather than the Gemini, which is better in every way. It doesn't make sense at all to get the base model. Now, that may change once they actually rework these ships and they may give them the stats that they are actually supposed to get. This ship is gigantic, and the fact that its hallways basically require a map the first time you step into it is kind of ridiculous. But that's by design because this is a Squadron 42 asset. And if you have been following the game, then you know Squadron 42 ships have to stay the same until Squadron 42 launches because they will be featured in the game. Now, luckily, it looks like Squadron 42 will be at least going into beta very soon. My guess is next year, somewhere around the middle of the year. If you don't know what Squadron 42 is, that is the companion single player game. That game will pay essentially for Star Citizen. Moving on, this ship will require a massive rework after they are no longer required to keep it as an FPS level for Squadron 42, and CIG has already stated it will get that rework. In the meantime, everything in this ship is completely outdated and some of it is even broken. That being said, it's still flyable and does what it's supposed to do. I just wouldn't want to live in it. Well, except for give out fuel, that's broken too. I would also fix this by making it have better hull HP. I could imagine a ship full of fuel blowing up and taking out a few other nearby ships with it, so it should be tougher than it is. I would double it to about 140k because MISC ships are supposed to be tougher ships. So I would put 140k on the Starfarer and about 220k HP on the Starfarer Gemini. They improved the shielding with the September 2024 rebalance, so that's not an issue anymore. It went from 1 large shield to 3 large shields. The guns for the Gemini should actually be on the base Starfarer. The Gemini should have the same guns, but they should all be quad turret instead of regular turret. And I think that way you don't have to change much, except add a few guns to those little turrets. Also, that launcher needs to come with a lot more missiles to be worthy of swapping out the ship's main purpose. I'm talking triple the amount, like 27 missiles. Both ships also should be able to pull fuel from its own tanks and become the farthest traveling ship in the game. Imagine being stuck with no fuel, out super far in the black, and having to rely on, checks notes, MISC Odyssey to come and save you because the Starfarer can't make it out to you. Now, you would have to be pretty far out for that to be the case, but it should never be the case. The Starfarer should be able to come to wherever you are and fuel you up because I think that's kind of the reason why we have the Starfarer. Then perhaps my largest issue with this ship is that it can't mine Quantanium. It seems to me they did with the MISC Odyssey what they should have done with this ship, made it to where it can mine, but only Quantanium, and made it to where it can only go into its own tanks first. As soon as they announced that on the Odyssey, I was screaming at my television like, what do you mean? I get it. They changed Quantanium to be a mineable resource rather than gas to be collected. But that means this ship has to change as well to match that. You don't just nerf the ship. I literally took a whole point off for the lack of that ability. Take the mining system from the Odyssey out completely and give it to the Starfarer in the rework. Then give the Odyssey, which is literally more than twice the price of the Starfarer, a better version, where it is still limited to Quantanium, but it can also refine other materials brought to the ship in small amounts, and less efficiently than a dedicated refinery to keep with balancing, but come on, it just makes sense. Also, a smaller nitpick, where is the recreational area? This ship decided to do 200 corridors instead of a pool table and a few recliners. Not a great choice. So why are these a 6 and a 7? Well, I wanted to rate them higher because I have a lot of love for these two ships, more specifically the Gemini, but its current primary gameplay is bugged, and honestly, even if it wasn't bugged, it's not balanced. Giving people fuel doesn't make enough money, nor is it necessary in the game until Pyro, because so many places in Stanton have fuel that nobody really has a reason to come to you. After that, the interior of the ship is a maze and difficult to navigate. It also has that darn MISC mail slot visibility in the cockpit, even with 3 seats that are supposed to be looking out. The guns are pitiful for the size and mobility of the ship. The hull HP is pitiful, and the range is pitiful considering what the ship's main purpose is. So it seems all bad. But then I realized something. Even with all those flaws, these ships will be extremely useful in the game for pretty much every fleet. Hydrogen and Quantanium are the single most valuable resources to any fleet, and it's not even close. You can't fly your ships without it, nor drive your vehicles, and you won't be able to operate your outposts without it. It's difficult to see now because it's in such abundance, and it's not necessarily relevant to everyone because of that abundance, but a time will come where you might only have 1 or 2 solid places to refuel in an entire solar system, or maybe even no places to refuel. There will come a time when you are literally begging for either a Starfarer or a Vulcan to come and save you from your ill-planned trip. And this will be the ship that comes to rescue you. It will be valued in the future, and it will be heavily valued. Also, with this being one of the last ships to get a rework, you can imagine it getting some major updates and a very cool layout when it's all said and done. That's why I scored these so high, even considering all of the bad things and negative things I had to say about them. The utility is, and will be, off the charts, even if this ship itself could use a lot of TLC. So who are these ships for currently? The Starfarer is for people who just want to leave the ship sitting somewhere as a fuel depot and never plan to really fly it anywhere. The Gemini is for anyone looking to fly the ship around and be a bit more proactive with your gas. I imagine using the Starfarer as exactly what I just said, a stationary fuel depot with either a skeleton crew in my floating fleet or parked on a planet providing fuel to everything on my outpost, including my other ships. The Gemini I would use as a mobile fuel depot, and I would be actively flying around and fueling the larger ships in my fleet where the Vulcan just can't get it done, but the Vulcan would be more so used to fuel the smaller ships. I would gear it for fast travel and disabling other ships though, rather than fighting. I know you're here for R rating, but if you really want a ship, go buy it. We won't stop you. Or even better, all ships can be earned in-game once the game releases, and some you can purchase in-game right now. These are just our ratings, but when you spend, it's your money. My opinion, skip the Starfarer and get the Gemini, but swap the missile launcher out and put the fuel scoop back on. Now you have the Gemini that's worth the money. I would certainly spend real money on this ship as it will be invaluable to any fleet, and I do think the price of it will go up, but that could just be the FOMO in me talking. I don't have one in my fleet currently, but I do have a CCU that is just waiting for that rework. But my guess, we'll be waiting a very long time for that. All right, that is it for this one. Shout out to the members. Thanks for spending your time with us. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.